Hey guys, I am Anup Dev Kishu. In this video, we are going to discuss some world famous photographs. So let's get started. The first image is View from the Window at Les Graces by Joseph Nicephore Niepce. This is the first photograph ever taken, and it was not by an artist but by the inventor Joseph Nicephore Niepce. His fascination with printing led him to set up a camera obscura, which means a dark room, at his studio in France in 1826. It was an 8-hour exposure. This is why the image is somewhat confusing, because the sun had moved across the courtyard during the exposure, causing shadows on both sides to appear. Moving on to the next image, The Steerage by Alfred Stieglitz, one of the most famous photographers of the early 20th century. Stieglitz fought for photography to be taken as seriously as painting as a valid art form. His iconic image, The Steerage, what he called straight photography, offering a truthful take on the world. It also gives us a more complex and multi-layered viewpoint that conveys abstraction through the shapes in the image and how those shapes relate to one. The next image is Cotton Mill Girl, which was taken by Louis Hine. Louis Hine was an investigative photographer who came across Sadie Pfeiffer, one of the smallest child at work in the cotton mill. He shot her to show the real face of a child worker in USA on 1908. He knew he had a shot that would change the views of people. The outcome was a 50% cut in the number of child laborers over a period of 10 years. And the next image is Man Jumping the Puddle by Henri Cartier-Bresson. Henri Cartier-Bresson coined the term the decisive moment to refer to a moment when the photographer captures a fleeting second. And this image became the perfect example for decisive moment, which was shot on 1930. He said that there is nothing in this world that doesn't have a decisive moment, and he is referred to as the father of modern photojournalism. We are moving to the next image, Migrant Mother by Dorothea Lange. Dorothea Lange was an American documentary photographer and a photojournalist, best known for her Depression-era work for the Farm Security Administration. She framed Thompson and her young children, drawing the viewer into the pain on her face. And this photograph became the symbol of the plight of migrant farm workers during the Great Depression in 1936. The next image is The Falling Soldier, framed by Robert Capa. Robert Capa is considered to be the greatest compact and adventure photograph in history. Capa's image of a Spanish militiaman being shot was taken without looking through his viewfinder, and it was taken on September 5, 1936. The photograph was acclaimed as one of the greatest ever taken. Since the 1970s, there have been significant doubts about its authenticity due to its location and the identity of its subject. The next image is Winston Churchill, photographed by Yusuf Kash. The story behind this photograph is Winston Churchill was unaware that a photographer has been commissioned to take his portrait. He refused to remove his cigar. When he removed the cigar from his mouth, Yusuf Kash took his famous photograph with the scowl. Of the incident, Churchill told Kash, "You can even make a roaring lion stand still to be photographed." This image is one of the most widely reproduced political portraits. It gave photographers permission to take more honest and even critical portraits of the political leaders. Moving on to the next image, VJ Day in Times Square by Alfred Eisenstadt. Alfred Eisenstadt's mission was to find and catch the storytelling moment of VJ Day in Times Square in 1945, and he photographed a soldier and a nurse kissing each other. This photograph has become one of the most iconic images of the 20th century, signifying the joyous end to years of war. Moving on to the next image, Mushroom Cloud over Nagasaki by Lieutenant Charles Levy. Lieutenant Charles Levy captured the photograph of the devastation of Nagasaki with his personal camera while abroad in the aircraft on August 9, 1945. It became one of the most defining images of the explosion. The next image is Gandhi and the Spinning Wheel by Margaret Brook White. In 1946, Margaret Brook White, Life magazine's first female photographer, was offered a rare opportunity to photograph Mahatma Gandhi. After 2 failed shots, it was her third attempt to get this iconic image. And the next image is Dali Atomicus by Philip Holtzman. Philip Holtzman and Salvador Dali shot this famous photo Dali Atomicus in 1948. Salvador Dali is the person who is in the photograph. Holtzman was assisted by his wife and daughter by throwing the cats and water into the frame. It was all done in a single frame and there was no Photoshop at that time. After 26 shots, they finally captured this image. Holtzman helped to shape modern-day portrait photography by collaborating with the subject. Moving on to the next image, Einstein's Birthday by Arthur Sess. Often called Einstein's tongue, is an image that became iconic due to its humorous character. Capturing humor in photography is one of the hardest things to do in the discipline. The picture shows a different profile of Albert Einstein, and its playful and naughty character is what makes the image so great. Moving on to the next image, Milk Drop Cornet by Harold Edgerton. In 1957, Edgerton began a series of experiments in his lab, inventing a camera that would photograph a fleeting moment in the dark, combining high-tech strobe lighting and a camera shutter that would enable to capture a moment invisible to the naked eye. He set up a milk dropper next to the timer along with his camera. His stop-motion photograph was able to freeze the impact of a drop of milk on a table. And the next image is Che Guevara by Alberto Corda. The photograph of Che Guevara was captured on March 5, 1960. Upon his death, 7 years later, his portrait of Che Guevara would become the iconic image of rebellion and revolution for the people around the world. And you can find portraits of Che painted all over. that mimic Korda's image. Moving on to the next image, Saigon Execution by Eddie Adams. Photojournalist Eddie Adams was on the streets of Saigon on the 1st February 1968, photographing the devastation of the war. He was witnessing a routine execution of a prisoner. He looked through the viewfinder of his camera to capture the scene. This iconic photo became one of the most powerful images of the Vietnam War, and he won a Pulitzer Prize for this photograph. The next image is The Terror of War by Nick Wood. War photographer Nick Wood captured one of the most harrowing images in the history of Vietnam War on 1972. The harrowing image of a 9-year-old girl who is a victim of mistakenly dropped napalm. She was later helped by Wood and received life-saving treatment. Nick Wood won a Pulitzer Prize for this famous photograph in 1973. The next image is Afghan Girl by Steve McCree. Steve McCree is an American photographer, freelancer and a photojournalist who took a portrait photograph of Sarbat Gula, an adolescent Afghan girl with green eyes, which has appeared on the cover of National Geographic magazine on June 1985. Moving on to the next image, Famine in Somalia by James Nachtwey. Unable to get an assignment to document the 1992 famine in Somalia, photojournalist James Nachtwey decided to go alone. Supported on the ground by the Red Cross, Nachtwey captured the horrors of famine. This is his most haunting image, captures a woman in a wheelbarrow waiting to be taken to a feeding center. The next image is Starving Child and Vulture, which was taken by Kevin Carter. In 1993, South African photojournalist Kevin Carter traveled to Sudan to photograph the famine. His image of a collapsed child with a vulture stalking over her not only caused the public outrage because of the horrific subject, it also stirred up a lot of criticism directed toward the photographer for photographing the child rather than helping her. And the onslaught that came after continued to haunt Carter until he took his own life in 1994. For the record, the mother was apparently right next to the scene and the child was never in danger of being attacked by the bird. And even he won a Pulitzer Prize for this social impact photograph on 1993. And the last and final image, Death of Alan Kurdi by Nilüfer Demir. Alan Kurdi, initially known as Aylan Kurdi, was a 3-year-old Syrian boy of Kurdish ethnic background, whose image made global headlines after he drowned on 2nd September 2015 in the Mediterranean Sea. Photographs of his body were taken by Turkish journalist Nilüfer Demir and quickly spread around the world, prompting international responses. The Syrian conflict has created one of the worst humanitarian crises. So thank you guys for watching my video.